Parashat Emor. Embedded in this week's parsha, we have two of the most fundamental commands that touch on the very nature of being Jewish. As we read, "Do not desecrate my holy name. I must be sanctified among the Israelites. I am the Lord who made you holy and who brought you out of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord." Two commandments respectfully: the prohibition against desecrating God's name, Chillul Hashem, and the positive corollary, Kiddush Hashem. We're commanded to sacrifice God's name. But in what sense can we sanctify or desecrate God's name? First of all, we must understand the concept of name, especially as it applies to God. A name is how we're known to others. God's name is therefore His standing in the world. Do people acknowledge Him, respect Him, honor Him? Commandment of Kiddush Hashem and Chillul Hashem locate their responsibility in the conduct and fate of the Jewish people. This is exactly what Isaiah meant when he said, "You are my witnesses, says God. I am God." The God of Israel is the God of all humanity. He created the universe and life itself. He made all of us, the Jews and non-Jews alike, in His image. He cares for all of us. His tender mercies are on all His works. Yet the God of Israel is radically unlike the gods of the ancients. He is not identical to nature. He is not identical to the physical universe. He transcends the universe. We're not capable of mapping or quantifying Him by science, through observation, calculation, and measurement, for He's not that kind of thing at all. How then is He known? The radical claim of the Torah is that He is known primarily, not exclusively, through Jewish history and through the ways Jews live. As Moses said in the end of his life, "Ask now about the former days, long before your time, from the day God created human beings on earth. Ask for one end of the heavens to the other. Has anything so great as this ever happened? Or has anything like this ever been heard of? Any other people heard the voice of God speaking out of fire as you have and lived? Has any other God had tried to take for himself one nation out of another other nation by testing, by signs and wonders, and by a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, or by great awesome deeds, like all things the Lord your God did for you in Egypt before your very eyes?" 33 centuries ago, Moses already knew that Jewish history would continue to be unique. No other nation survived such trials. The revelation of God to Israel is unique. No other religion is built on revelation of God to a nation of people, as happened on Mount Sinai. Therefore, God of revelation and redemption is known to the world through His people. In ourselves, we are testimony beyond ourselves. We are God's ambassadors to the world. We are all, like it or not, ambassadors of the Jewish people. And how we live, how we behave, and treat others not only reflects on us as individuals, but also on Jewry as a whole, and thus on Judaism and the God of Israel. Thus, when you behave in a way that invokes admiration for Judaism as a faith and as a way of life, that is Kiddush Hashem, a sanctification of God's name. When we do the opposite, when we betray our faith and the way of life, causing people to have contempt for the God of Israel, that is Chillul Hashem, desecrating God's name. That is what the prophet Amos meant when he said, "They trample on the heads of the poor as on the dust of the ground, and deny justice to the oppressed. They desecrate my holy name." When Jews behave badly, unethically, unjustly, they create Chillul Hashem. They cause others to say, "I cannot respect that religion," or a God that inspires people to behave in that way. The same applies to the more larger international scale. The prophet who was never tired of pointing this out was Yechezkel, the man who went to exile to Babylon after the destruction of the first temple. This is a prophecy he heard from God. "I dispersed them among the nations, and they were scattered through the countries. I judged them according to their conduct and their actions, and wherever they went among the nations, they profaned my holy name. For it was said to them, 'These are the Lord's people,' and yet they had to leave His land." When Jews are defeated and sent to exile, it is not only a tragedy for them, it's a tragedy for God. He feels like a parent would feel seeing their child disgraced and sent to prison. A parent often feels shame, and even worse than that, inexplicable failure. How is it that despite everything I did for him, I could not save my child from himself? When Jews are faithful to their mission, they live and lead and inspire as Jews, then God's name is exalted. This is exactly what Isaiah said. "You are my servant Israel, in whom I delight." The fate of God's name in the world depends on us and how we behave. No nation has ever been given a greater, more faithful responsibility. When a Jew behaves badly in business, or utters a racist remark, or sexual abuse, or acts cruelly to others, it reflects badly on Jews, on Judaism, and in God himself. But when a Jew acts with dignity, with honor, helping people out, caring about the victim of abuse, showing generosity of spirit, not only does it reflect good on Jews, more importantly, it increases the respect people have for God. As Maimonides writes in his code of law, if a person has been scrupulous in his conduct, gentle in his conversation, pleasant toward his fellow creatures, affable in manner when receiving, not retorting even when affronted, but shows courtesy to all, even to those who treat him with disdain, conducting his business affairs with integrity, and doing more than his duty in all things, while avoiding extremes and exaggerations, such a person has sanctified God. This is meant when God calls us his holy nation. This is not an assertion that we're more inherently better than others, but that our vocation represents not a privilege, but a responsibility. Israel's role is to be an example, no more, no less. The concern of Judaism is universal. Abraham was promised, through you, all the families of earth will be blessed. We believe that our righteous of the nation have a share in the world to come. We don't want to convert them, but we seek to be living examples, a reflection of God's light, inspiration to others to find their own path to God. For almost 2,000 years, the Jewish people were without a home, a land, civil rights, security, and their ability to shape their own destiny and fate. We were cast the role of pariah people, and by definition, a pariah cannot serve as a role model. And Kiddush Hashem took a tragic turn to the willingness to die for your faith. That is no longer the case today. Today, for the first time in history, Jews have sovereignty and independence in Israel and freedom elsewhere. Therefore, Kiddush Hashem must be restored to the sense of exemplary decency in the moral life. Like the Hittites called Abraham, a prince of God in our midst, will lead Israel to be admired. It is when it engages in international rescue and relief, the Jewish conviction of the pursuit of justice, the practice of compassion, what Einstein called the fanatic love of justice of the Jews. At this moment, we face the world on equal terms. Long ago, we were called to show the world that religion and morality go hand in hand. Never has it been more needed in today's age, where we have religiously motivated violence in some countries and rampant secularity in others. To be a Jew is to be dedicated to the proposition that loving God means loving his image, humankind. Even those outside of our faith recognize. John Adams, America's first vice president and second president, once wrote, "I will insist that the Hebrews have done more to civilize men than any other nation. If I were an atheist and believed in blind eternal fate, I will still believe that fate has ordained the Jews to be the most essential instrument for civilizing nations. To be a Jew is to ask, to give, to contribute, to make a difference, to help in the monumental task that has engaged Jews since the dawn of our history, to make the world a home for the divine presence, a place of justice, compassion, human dignity, and sanctity of life. God gives his word to man. Man gives his word to God. God teaches, man acts, and together they begin the task of tikkun olam, mending the world. We become partners in creation and help heal the fractured world. Shabbat Shalom.